Good morning, ladies. I am Karen Ray. I'm the founder of Fave Lifestyles, and we are on a mission to hashtag celebrate 1 million women. And that is through the power of our stories because we know how much we have all gone through, for one. And if we're talking about our brave stories and sharing our courageous voices, and it's to unite women because, we come together over the shared emotional experiences that we've gone through. And that brings us together. So we are going to be sharing Cindy Toledo's story, Courage to Forgive, today. So welcome, Cindy.
Thank you so much, Karen. It's always a joy to be with you.
Yes, and it is such an honor to share the stories of women. And it's, we go through a lot, but really what unites us is those experiences of that grit, that overcoming, those things that got us through to the other side, that hope and inspiration that brings us together. And that's really why we do this, why we are coming together. And ladies, you can come and champion these women as well in many different ways. You can come share your story, read the stories. You can come and be a sponsor or journey with us in our Fave membership. So there's lots of ways to come and connect here at Fave. So Cindy, first of all, let's start off with why don't you just say a little bit about you and what you do?
Oh, okay. I am a remarried widow, and I became widowed in 2011 when I was 57. Right after my husband passed, I found Modern Widows Club online, and they were a lifeline for me. I 6 months later flew from Seattle to Orlando. They were a brand new organization. Our founder was just inviting women into her home at the time, and she'd started a blog website. So I went there and I knew that I wanted to do something similar here. And so another year later, I started the community Modern Widows Club here in the area. And now, all these many years later, 13 years, I am the program support manager for our organization. So I lead and support all of the leaders in the United States.
Wow.
So,
Wow. And that what a what a wonderful job that is to touch the lives of so many women and bringing these women together during their brave stories, because I know it takes a lot as they walk through their own stories. And you have also been selected as one of our authors for our upcoming book, Being Brave, which is going to be coming out in December of 2024. But today you had written another story, and so we're going to be talking a little bit about this your other story about forgiving. And I think this is so pertinent as women to talk about these things and about forgiving, because a lot of times, no matter what your brave story is, there's a little bit of forgiveness that has to go in there. And what does that mean? And how does that play a part in our story? So Cindy, tell us a little bit today about what were the circumstances of this story of the courage to forgive.
well, I was probably about 42. I was divorced from my first husband. We had been married very early in life, 18, and were married for 16 years, and he decided to leave. I was devastated. And I moved here to Seattle where my mother and my family lived and brought my children along with me. And it actually wasn't terribly long before I met Mike, and then we ended up marrying. So at the time when this happened, I was about 42. It'd been about 8 years since my divorce. And I was just living my life. I loved to entertain. We had people in our home all the time and just going about life. And then my mother, and because I was so devastated and angry and all the things that go along with having had my life disrupted in a way that I wasn't planning, I I had stopped going to church, and I've gone to church my whole entire life. So I'd stopped going to church. I didn't want anything to do with anything that had to do with that. And so periodically, my mother would say little things to me. And so this particular time, she asked me to listen to a tape series, which at the time is kind of funny now. It was cassette tapes.
Yeah, I
And
just
they were Joyce Meyer's, and I would play them in my car on the way to work. And so a lot of the time I was a little bit rebellious and didn't want to do what my mother would prefer for me to do. And so I decided she would probably not relent and I might as well just listen. So I listened to the tapes.
yeah. So
And
what do you think, Cindy? What do you think that your mother comes to you presenting this tape? So why do you think she said this? Was it something she noticed in you?
I think she saw in me what I didn't see in myself or wasn't willing to recognize.
And
And
what was
so,
that? It,
well, it was definitely so the tapes are it's actually, I think, a book also. It's called Anger, Bitterness, and Unforgiveness.
so she was
And
noticing something,
she was
obviously, that
noticing
she
all
thought
of those
needed
things,
addressed.
but I wasn't aware,
Uh-huh.
and I also wasn't aware how much it was. So I began to listen to the tapes and I could find myself relating to all of these things. And
Mm.
the exercise in this book tapes were so simple, it's almost ridiculous. It's basically when you have these thoughts of this event or whatever it is that is kind of consuming your life, that you would just basically raise it up, lift your hands up, whatever you want to do, and give it to God and just say, God, I can't handle this. I'm giving it to you. The thing that was so shocking to me was that initially I was having to do it like up to 40 times a day. I had no idea how
Yeah.
much really this consumed my inner being.
Wow. So I have to tell you, I'm going to just mention too that we have a little bit of a lag. We're having a little technical issue. I don't know if you've noticed, Cindy. So
Oh no,
if it
huh?
appears that I'm talking on top of you, please forgive me because
Oh no, that's okay.
we have a little bit of a technical lag here. But Cindy, one of the things so when I was reading your story, and ladies, just know too that you can go to the Fave Lifestyles app and read Cindy's story. But one of the things that really touched me, Cindy, is when you said in the story that, yes, you realize you were having these thoughts swirl like 40 times. So I actually put that into practice, whether you are a believer or not. Just, if you're just giving it away, all of a sudden you realize, oh my gosh, I'm thinking about this way more than I ever thought. Because I started going to my heart and going, here you go, here you go, here you go. And for me, it's God. I'm just going to give it to you.
Yes, me
And
too.
I realized I was thinking about this one thing way, way more than I ever thought I was. And that was such a key piece. And I'm like, oh my goodness, Cindy's onto something here.
Yeah, it was pretty remarkable, and I've remembered it ever since. And I don't. One thing that was interesting, and I don't remember how long it was later. It was maybe even several years later. But I was put into a situation where I was going to have to be with him. And, we have children together, and so that happens. And
Together with your ex-husband.
yes, and
Okay.
so we were actually going to a family wedding on his side of the family. His nieces were very close to our daughters, and so, it was, and they actually had lived with Mike and I, so it was, you
Mm.
know, normal. I mean, it was appropriate for us to go to the wedding.
Uh-huh.
So before the wedding, I ended up having a conversation with some random person that I didn't even know. And she said, I told her this story, and she said, well, you need to go and ask him for forgiveness. And I was like, no, I do not want to do that. And I also don't want to, I mean, a wedding venue is not appropriate. for me to cause any kind of dissension. And so I went and I just prayed before I went. And it's like, okay, God, if you really want me to do this, you're going to have to um, create the time and the space for it, because I'm not going to search it out.
Right. And so,
And
Cindy, what do you feel that your anger or grief or whatever was around too? I mean, as you were sitting there going, I'm not sure I'm ready to let go of this. What was it that you needed to let
from the time I was a very little girl, all my life, I played dolls until I was probably too late to play. Most girls would have stopped playing dolls. Um, I always wanted to grow up and get married and have children. And I wanted to have the 50th wedding anniversary. And I wanted to have the children and the grandchildren coming through the white picket fence onto the porch for Christmas. I mean, that was my real anger. And that is something I discovered, that it was, yes, I was devastated by the um, dissolving of the marriage. But I was more devastated by my dream, my lifetime dream being destroyed.
Yeah. Okay. We usually have these little paddles that say, I relate. Anybody else out there can say, I relate. Cindy, I can relate. I've also walked through a divorce, and that was one of the things, one of the layers. I also thought it was the hopes and dreams of what we thought was going to be.
Yeah.
I,
It
I
gives
don't
me
know.
chills even right now to say that.
Me too. I've got goosebumps all over. I know, because we aren't in the place that we thought we were going to be. And that is so hard to come to that realization.
Yes. Yes.
So, yeah. So continue with the story. So you're at this wedding.
So we're at this wedding, and the whole family was doing the prep of the venue and all of that. We were all working together. And I don't know about everyone else, but I normally, when something comes up and you're in a group and you have to say something and you get that really nervous feeling, you don't want to, speak up or that kind of thing. Anyway, all of a sudden I got that really nervous feeling, and it was like, oh no, this is it. I'm
Mm,
supposed to go now. So I went to find him, and I couldn't find him. And so I looked everywhere around this venue, and then asked a few people, and they were like, oh, he left. Both of us were remarried. He left with his wife, and they went to the store for something. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, then I thought, all right, I guess, God's going to have to create another different time. And it
mm.
never did come up. But what I felt like later on is that God just wanted to know I was willing. He
Uh,
didn't make me go through it, but he wanted
ah,
to know that I was willing.
yes. And so what do you think forgiveness gave you? Just to be
Oh,
willing to forgive. What do you think you got out of that?
freedom from the bondage,
Yeah.
freedom, you know. Um,
Yeah.
I, if I sit and think about it, I could still be, um, I don't necessarily sad, but, disappointed about that dream that is never going to happen.
Right.
But, my life has been so filled with things that I know never would have happened.
Uh,
And I just, I'm grateful. I'm grateful. We have two beautiful children. In fact, last week I was with him and his wife with our daughters celebrating my birthday at the beach.
Wow.
So
Wow.
we have an amazing relationship.
Oh.
His wife is one of my dear friends.
Oh, isn't that something?
Yeah.
Oh, to take something that was really hard, really heartbreaking, and turn it into something beautiful. And I know that story is not the same for everyone, but just to get that freedom. And so this is one of the things, one of our ladies here at Faith, Brenda Reese, who is a forgiveness coach, and I have worked with her quite a bit myself. And one of the things that has resonated, and I think what you were saying too, it's that event still happened. And you don't have to like it. And it can't be, it doesn't have to be right or anything. That's not what you're forgiving. It's just like taking the sting away from the bee. And that's what Brenda says a lot. And so I relate that here. The event and the thing still happened. You just don't have to feel it anymore. And it gives you that freedom to throw that stinger away and to move on. It just creates like this path of freedom of where you can now move forward in life in a more beautiful way, because you're going to move forward anyway. Let's have it be, just see that beauty. And Cindy, that's what I see in you, that you have gone through several different really, really hard situations and circumstances, divorce, becoming a widow. But look at all the beauty, and what you can share from your wisdom now is just amazing. And how many lives you now touch through the Modern Widows Club.
Oh, thank you so much. A thought came up to me. We all have relationship issues at different times and struggles. And I was having a struggle with one of my daughters, and I was going to a counselor. And he said to me, he says, you need to lower your expectation quotient, and then your satisfaction quotient will rise. And so when I did that exercise of not expecting what I was expecting out of her and that relationship, or anything in our lives, really, we get these expectations. But when I lowered that, and it's like, okay, one of his comment to me was, she's not telling you she hates you. She's not trying to kill you. She's not doing any of those things. She's just not doing what you want her to do.
Yeah.
And so, he goes, just lower that. And I think it's so true in all of our relationships, that we get these high expectations of what we want our life to be. And it doesn't mean that we can't strive for those things, for sure. But it means that when life throws us a curveball, that, we have to lower that expectation a little bit and realize, this is something, and I don't know if I put it in the story, but it took me some years to come to this. But there was a time, because of the fact that our relationship is what it is now, I really believe that even though it doesn't look like what I wanted it to look like, God has painted the picture in still a beautiful way. The picture isn't what I thought it was, but it's a beautiful painting now.
Oh my goodness. Oh, that is so lovely. And I love what you said about expectations too. And it just reminds me, what are we expecting of ourselves as well?
Yeah.
What if we lowered those expectations of what we think we're supposed to accomplish? Maybe that would open the doors to new opportunities or possibilities. If we didn't have these things that, it's got to be such and such a way.
Right.
What if it isn't? What if it's supposed to be something different, something maybe even more beautiful? Look at how you've created your life, and taking those circumstances, those opportunities. And, sometimes we have to learn through our pain.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
I think those lessons are, in some ways, more beautiful.
Yeah. So we have to, like you said earlier, to be willing, open and willing to accept what is, and to learn from it and see what that is. And I think, that's one of the reasons we come and we share our stories, is because we can learn some lessons. Like I took that, I very often now go like this and throw things up to God. It's like, because like you said, it helps make you aware of that you're swirling in those thoughts and thinking about it more than you really thought you were. What if we even did that as in our own self-talk to ourselves, because we're not always aware of how we're talking to ourselves, and give that away.
Absolutely. The interesting thing is it only took about 30 days. It kept getting less and less and less.
Yeah.
And you know how they say you do something for 30 days and, it becomes a habit. And
Yeah.
then it would be less and less. And sometimes it would be every 2 weeks, I would have a thought. And then, even later on, it would be like some zinger thought would come in and be like, no, I don't have to go here anymore.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
now they never come,
Right.
of
Right.
course, it's a lot of years, but
And just
still.
think of how much brain space that opens up to new creativity, to positive things.
Well, and when you have anger and bitterness, it just, one of the things in the tape series or books is she talks about when you have that, it's like feeding the weed,
Yeah.
and the weed just grows and it chokes out all the love.
Right. Yes. Yes. That's just like the story of the Indian story about feeding the
Yeah,
wolf. And
yeah.
so, what's it, Cindy? What was that book or that tape that your mother?
It's by Joyce Myers, and it was called Anger, Bitterness, and Unforgiveness. Now, it was a lot
Okay.
of years
Right
ago, but
there.
it should be out there somewhere.
Oh, ladies, yes. And if you women out there, if you have a resource that you want to share, please feel free to put it into the comments, because you know what? We're all here to help each other out, move forward, live the life that we want, and just really share our stories. And, it's just so impactful in coming together. Cindy, so what would you like to say to the ladies as we close out? What's about taking a brave step forward?
I think that the hardest thing about taking brave steps is the fear.
Hmm.
We have fear that it's not going to work out, or that things are going to fall apart even worse than they are, or, whatever. And I think that recognizing that those steps, even in the fear, are going to empower you. It's
Yeah.
going to empower you to shift and to change and to bring those things into your life that you want.
Yes. And, I had a series of events at one time that, were very challenging. And one of the things that I said to myself was, because I was frozen for so long in fear. And I thought, you know what? I can make a decision, and it can be the right decision, the wrong decision. But if I take no decision, I'm not moving, I'm just stuck. And
Absolutely,
so I thought,
absolutely.
you know what? I have a choice to own my own decision, whatever it is. And no matter
Yes.
what other people think, it's my decision. And that is too, for me, was taking that one step and owning my own power rather than letting the circumstances decide for me. Yeah.
Absolutely,
Brave
absolutely.
steps, everybody. Look at us all moving forward and taking, stepping up out of that fear, stepping into who we are. Cindy, thank you so much for coming and sharing your story here with us at Fave, and just really honored the stories that you have shared with us. And ladies, I encourage you to go over to www.favelifestyles.app and hit the Tales of Inspiration and read the stories of these women, and come join us in December when we have our book launch party to honor all these ladies who are sharing their brave stories. So any last words, Cindy?
Well, Karen, I just wanted to thank you because you have just created this space for women to be celebrated. And in these stories, but just since I've known you in 2018, I came at a place, at a crossroads again in my life. And, my job had ended, and it was kind of like, okay, what now? And I
Yeah.
came, and it was just so encouraging to be with other women, and to share stories, and you have just such a beautiful way. And so I just want to thank you for that.
Thank you. And it's just so wonderful to be on this journey with you. So ladies, come join us, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Thank you so much.